Welcome to the Golden Nuggets of Real Estate Investing, a podcast dedicated to helping you achieve financial freedom through real estate. We'll be discussing the most important lessons, or better known as the Golden Nuggets of Real Estate Investing, entrepreneurship, and personal finance with new and experienced investors to help you get into real estate investing or scale up your portfolio. So make sure to tune in. What's going on, everyone? It's Ross Nadai, host of the Golden Nuggets podcast. Welcome to episode 4. Today, I'll be joined by my special guest, Francois Lanthier, a real estate investor out of Ottawa, Ontario, investing all over North America. He's a recent retiree who used real estate as a vehicle to achieve financial freedom and quit his 9-to-5 job. He's an investor who does not let distance be an obstacle and currently owns a portfolio of 20 units in Ottawa, Moncton, New Brunswick, Cornwall, Ontario, and now across the border in Detroit. Francois shares the golden nuggets of how he assesses different markets, how he finds good pockets to invest in, and how he is currently doing perfect BRRRs in the Detroit market, which is basically allowing him to accumulate free properties. So you want to make sure to tune in. With that being said, please help me reach as many eyes and ears as possible by sharing this podcast on your Instagram and Facebook stories and tagging me. I'll return the favor and give you a shout out. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave me a 5-star review. If you're watching on YouTube, leave me a comment, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you can stay up to date on the most recent episodes. It costs you absolutely nothing, and it will greatly help me create more content and have more amazing guests on the show for you. Thank you so much for your support. I truly appreciate it. Please enjoy episode 4 with Francois Lanthier. Welcome to the Golden Nuggets podcast. My name is Ross. I'm your host, and today I'm joined here by Francois, who's going to take over the world, basically. He's an investor. He's looking at potentially even investing now in Europe and has properties all over North America. He has recently also retired, which is a fantastic avenue, which we all strive for. So we're going to get into the nitty and gritty of how he got into real estate investing, what are some of his successes, and I would also like to focus on some of the potential failures and how real estate has impacted his life. So without further ado, Francois, please go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and where are you at right now?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Tell a little bit about myself. It's always tricky to talk about yourself. I don't like to boast or brag, but I've been investing in real estate kind of off and on for now 15 years, but much more seriously 5 years, and then really intensely in the past year and a half. So I have been doing what I called slow flips. So my wife and I and the kids eventually joined us in buying houses and fixing them, living through the renovation, and then selling the house, and then building some capital. And then the one property we ended up selling at some point, we had a huge penalty on the mortgage. And anyway, I found out, hey, you could buy another place and recoup that penalty. So that's how I got into investing more seriously. So I bought a condo and my mom was my first tenant. So I tell people about that story. Don't get your mom as a tenant. She'll call you to shovel the driveway and do everything. And there's a little scratch in the cupboard here. And anyway, it's a lot of fun. So good tenants, yes, she paid, but she was also very, very demanding. Hopefully she's not listening to this, but I love you, Mom, anyway. And then, so how far back? I mean, eventually I got into duplexes and multifamily, and then larger and larger. I don't have huge blocks or anything yet. That's like a future plan, but for now it's more multifamily. I don't do single family houses in Canada. I am doing that in the States right now, and again, maybe Europe in the future. So
that's incredible. What I wanted to ask you again, Francois, you did touch upon this briefly. You said, you've been investing for about 16 years. So one of the things that, we all experience every single day is your spouse. Your spouse is a huge factor in your life, and you guys have to be on the same page. And then in your case, since you do have kids, it's a bit of a work for them too, to move around and go from, essentially house to house. So how were you able to manage that relationship with the family and then kind of get there, go ahead with this type of project? Was that something, you guys discussed, or was it kind of just you decided to go? Like, what were some of the impacts that had in your family?
So when the kids were younger, we didn't really ask them. We kind of just told them,
Right.
we're leaving, the house is sold, bye. Tell your friends goodbye. That was kind of mean. Now we do involve them quite a bit more.
Right.
But for my wife, she's 100% on board. It's actually kind of her idea. So she's the one who she's behind the scenes, but she's the one pushing, hey, why don't we look at this? Why don't we look at that? And she's always sending me properties and things. And then, pushing me to look at things. Moncton and the US, that did kind of scare her because it's far. She's like, oh, I can't get there within an hour or two. But I convinced her, I showed her the numbers, and she's more the numbers person in our couple. So I find you complete each other. It's like you and your wife, I think you mentioned. So yeah. I'm sure one has certain strengths and you have other strengths, and you complete each other. So, but you have to be on the same page because it can spiral out of control. Right. And it's higher risk, and it's sometimes a lot of stress as well. Like today we were, like I said, I got the papers for the duplex and things that we're buying, the higher end property. And then she was stressed out all day. I'm like super relaxed. Don't worry, it's all good. And then sometimes it's the opposite. I'm stressed out. I'm like, I don't know about this appraisal. And she's like, oh, don't worry, it's going to come through. So it's important to be a team. And then, kids, having them on board, they're awesome at removing old carpet. If you buy properties and you get kids, it's worth it. Child labor, it's really good. We do pay them, side pay them. My kids have a timesheet, and they get paid for different things they do at properties. So when they're local, and I show them how we analyze deals, and I'm hoping to teach both of them how to buy properties and raise capital and go through the whole process. So
definitely. Yeah. I mean, if we can go back in time and if we knew what we knew today, who knows where we'll be, right?
Yeah. And the sad thing is my parents were investors. They owned a hotel when I was a kid, and they both worked full time, but they never showed me that part, like how to raise funds. And they kind of briefly mentioned it, but never as open. Now I show my kids the books and how much things cost and all of that stuff. So they even tell their friends now. And when they see us with like a listing, they roll their eyes. No, not another place. But they understand the purpose behind it. So.
Wow, incredible. So the way you started your journey, as you mentioned, it was primary residence, and then you went to the more the flipping model, and then you got into multifamily. Is that kind of like the pathway into real estate?
Yeah, exactly. So the first house I bought was a 1971 special, and it had a blue robin's egg blue tub, toilet, and sink. And for some reason, the owners had painted a lot of stuff hot pink, like the railing and everything was very dated. So we moved into that house with the young kids, and we just improved it, and it went up in value. And then we bought another one that was kind of dated, and we fixed it. And at that time, we were accumulating a bit of capital that we were able to use to buy other properties. So that's it. So a flip, but like a live-in flip. Mm-hmm. So 2 years. So there's no carrying cost because you live in the house. So it's good for beginners. I mean, I was much younger then, and like I said, 16 years ago now, actually. So with young kids, and then multifamily, so duplexes, triplex, fiveplex, and then I haven't gone up above 5 units yet. I did make an offer a few days ago on a portfolio, 22 doors, 7 buildings, but I didn't get it yet. So I need to work on that strategy.
That's so awesome. So tell us a little bit about how, I guess, you are building this portfolio. I know for a lot of us, what the common issue is that we kind of run out of capital, right? So are you going on these deals by yourself, or are you partnering with others in a JV matter? Like, how are you doing that right now, Francois?
Yeah, so we do some joint ventures. So when it's good, or when I feel a project is interesting for like a learning possibility. I love learning. My dad was a teacher, so I guess he taught me well. And I when I see like an opportunity to teach someone something, I do like a joint venture partner and the capital for sure, and borrowing. But I also have a lot of private lenders, so I can borrow the down payment or some cash to do renovations, things like that. So I do own quite a few properties by myself, and then some joint ventures, because it's just nice. It's more enjoyable. You get to meet people and learn from them, and they learn from you as well. So that's kind of how I finance my deals.
Beautiful. And then in terms of your portfolio, how many doors are you at right now? How many units?
Units, so we're at 17, so it's not enormous. But like I said, I almost added 22 of them over the holidays. And I have three more doors under contract. So another one is it's a duplex, but it's a high-end duplex. I'm trying something different. Usually I buy something that's more average, but this is huge. Each apartment is 2,300 square feet. So it's very big and it's quite nice. So we'll see. The financing, I got my letter today, so it looks like it's good to go. And the second one is a single family house in Detroit, Michigan. So that's a new adventure. I don't focus on a number of doors. It's more what will bring me freedom and like long-term wealth. So it's not really a number of doors. People ask me, how many do you want? I don't want that many, actually. I want enough that I'm able to retire, which I've done. My wife can quit her job at some point. And then I want enough that my kids don't have to work a day in their lives at some point. They can choose to work, but they don't have to. So that's my goal.
Yeah, so that comes to, I guess, that you kind of already covered it, but essentially, what is your why? Like, is it just financial freedom, which it seems like you've kind of already reached that point, or I guess, and are you still growing? Sounds like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I want to grow. I want to help others do the same. I'm always saddened when I see, like, especially right now with COVID, business owners struggling because their business, the sales are down. Of course, like if you own a restaurant or something and you're struggling and you have a young family. So I want to show them how they can build passive income and become financially independent. And then they can still do what they enjoy. I mean, if you have a restaurant, you must love, hopefully you love cooking or you love wine, you love something about it. So you can still do it when it's feasible, but you don't rely on that income to survive. So yeah, that's one of my strong whys, to help other people. And then my own family, of course, that comes first, but all the others as well. So I want to help people grow. And
so based on what you've mentioned so far to me, what are some of the strategies that you've used to kind of accumulate and get to the point of retirement?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, it's slow, incremental. I mean, the BRRRR strategy is amazing. It doesn't apply everywhere and in all markets, and it's becoming tougher now with like the increase in price for like properties. You're in the GTA, you know all about it.
Oh yeah.
So Ottawa, same thing. I've invested in Cornwall, Ontario, so a small city outside. It's about an hour east of Ottawa, so almost in Quebec. And there as well, appreciation is insane. So that was a good city for the BRRRR model, but now it depends. It's getting harder. You need a solid team. So I like actually just buying and holding. Very plain. I buy the place, fix it up a bit, increase the rent, get good tenants, and kind of wait for appreciation to do its thing. I know a lot of people are in a rush to refinance and pull out all the money and run to the next deal, but I don't know. I see something good about slower sometimes is better. And for me, actually, slower was actually 9 months instead of 5 years. So it's not that slow. But anyway, it was enough. Like I made a calculation with my wife. How much money do we need? And that was our number. And then I'm like, okay, I quit. That's it.
That's amazing. Yeah, I can't wait to get to that point one day. Hopefully soon.
Yeah, but it depends, I mean, on your living expenses, things like that. And that's something I was just reflecting upon at dinner with the kids. My daughter asked me, what's your 10 most important things? I'm like, well, really, I only have 3 items. I can't even fill that list because I'm not attached. Like, do I need the fancy car or the fancy house or the latest clothes? No, I don't care, really. It's all material stuff. It's more the relationships, the time to reflect on what really matters. So yeah, that's my philosophy anyway. And drink a lot of wine. So I want to be able to afford wine. That one's kind of essential.
So that's fantastic. And yeah, so you're getting to like basically the mindset. That was kind of like where I was leaning towards, which is a perfect segue, right? Because everybody's different, right? There are folks that are, why maybe I want a luxurious house, I want a beachfront property, I want X amount of cars. So everybody's different, right? But
and it's all good. It works. And I used to be like that. I wanted the big place and the big car, but then eventually I got my car scratched, and then I'm like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah, and funny enough, I'm not sure if you read one of the books that I've been reading right now. It's called Early Retirement Extreme, and I highly recommend it. I think you're gonna enjoy it. It's not an easy read, so I'll give you a little bit of warning. It's kind of like written like a textbook kind of style.
Oh wow!
However, it does talk about pretty much what we're talking about, kind of being frugal, understanding that how society works, how we've evolved over time to your houses are getting bigger, and so is our mortgages, right? The whole idea of keeping up with the Joneses and not really living your means to be comfortable. So to your example, someone could retire with say $50,000 a year salary versus somebody who needs 5 million, right?
Well, that's it. That's going to take much longer. At 5 million, I would still be working.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I mean, that freedom right now, maybe not maybe, it is granting me the space to attract more money, much more. It's incredible. Since I quit my job, I've had like multiple job offers. I'm like, no, is there a schedule involved? Then I'm not interested. Do I have to obey to a boss? Forget it. I'm not interested. So it's that freedom. And now I'm able to look at things differently and find solutions that I didn't have the time as an employee to like, I'd come home and then rush to this and that. So it's just that vision is totally changed. It's a whole new world. And
yeah. So where did you work before, Francois, before you retired?
So that's also why it was so easy for me to kind of quit. But I've had many, many jobs. I think I changed jobs every year. I was always headhunted. I was actually in a retirement home. I was in charge of leasing. So you can imagine with COVID, leasing was not very popular for retirement homes. People chose to stay home. And but before that, I did marketing and sales. So I sold all kinds of things and interior design. So that's how I met my wife. And that's why we kind of love real estate. We like the design aspect of things and renovating, looking at floor plans and efficiency and environmental, like energy conservation, things like that. That's something I really enjoy as well.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. So like, I guess I know you kind of touched up on this already, like in terms of, you started kind of like, starting a step at a time and into building your portfolio. But what was the light bulb that hit to say, you know what, I can make a business out of this. This can actually lead me to retirement. Like what changed? Was it like, did you speak to somebody? Did you listen to some books that kind of encouraged you? Or what changed in your mindset that got you into that field?
So like I said, we were doing the slow flips, then the condo that my mom lived in. Then we bought a duplex, and then we bought a second duplex, and then we hit the financing wall. So that was kind of as much as we were able to finance. And then the mortgage broker we were working with, she's like, hey, have you ever thought of doing joint ventures or like creative financing? I'm like, no, normally I save up the deposit, I go to the bank, and then do I qualify? And then I just keep buying. So that just opened up our mind. And I started doing some research, and I found some amazing real estate investor groups. And I did some networking, and I met the co-founders of the Right Club from Burlington. So Daniel Saint-Jean, he actually used to live in Ottawa where I live. And I sent him a message. I'm like, oh, he's not going to reply. Like, he's probably some big shot. And actually, he offered to come and meet with me in person. So we met, and then he taught me all kinds of things. And then I started listening to podcasts, and it just opened up my mind to all these things. And I was working for a builder at that time. So I was hearing my boss telling me about these deals. Oh, I bought this tower and I borrowed $38 million and I bought this. And I'm like, how are you doing all this? This is crazy. But I could do the same. So eventually I just learned, and that's it. I also joined the mentoring program with investor Mel and Dave. So you probably heard about them, and that
Yep.
was really helpful to change the mindset and grow.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So as you can see, you took advantage of having a great network. You expanded, you reached out, you got mentors in place, you got basically coached to help yourself develop and grow your mindset. And that's all it is. As much as we like to invest in real estate, we tend to forget to invest in ourselves. I think that's number one.
It's so important. Yeah. Because right now I could lose everything. I mean, it would suck, but I wouldn't lose my knowledge and my network, hopefully, unless I say something really bad, then I could lose all my network. But I would still know the principle and maybe get a new name and a new haircut or something and start over. So, but yeah, you can't lose that knowledge. So yeah, and that's again goes back to my dad, who was a teacher. So learning is something that's with you for life. So investing in the right mentors and the right network is very important.
Absolutely,
all
absolutely.
along.
So I'm so curious because you mentioned you're investing pretty much everywhere. So usually what we tend to do is we tend to pick a certain market, do our research, we try to build a power team around it, and then we execute, right? So how are you able to go from, I guess, city to city, or even province to province, or now let's say countries, because that's quite a bit of networks that you need, and then the kind of information that you need to build beforehand. So can you walk us through like how are you able to manage all that?
Yeah, I'm a bit a hyperactive person, so I get bored easily. I'm like, oh, investing in Ottawa. I made offers, I got a few places, and then it became hard. So I started looking elsewhere. I did the market fundamentals. That was good. We did it for a while. We got the power team. Then I got bored again. I'm like, oh, it's always the same product. You get to know who are the builders in that city and who built what when, and it all looks the same. So, and the laws too. I mean, staying within Ontario, it's great, the laws, but then it's a nice challenge. There's different laws, different opportunities in other provinces. So like New Brunswick or Alberta or Saskatchewan, they have much more landlord-friendly laws, which is something I really enjoy. So I do believe tenants do need protection. There is a need, and it's kind of lacking in Ontario. Tenants are overly protected, but also in a bad way. So if something goes wrong, if you have a slumlord, you're also not really being protected. It's very strange. So it's a poor setup. So that kind of attracted me to look at other places, like in the United States as well. Some states, the laws are very different. But yeah, it's a lot of networking. My wife tells me, okay, slow down. I don't want to look at this place. And a new city, new town. It's another power team, a new bunch of people we need to know, and laws. But it comes with opportunities as well. But yeah, be careful not to be too scattered. And I just find some markets are kind of tapped out, so I keep looking for other avenues.
Yeah, and how I guess, again, one of the other challenges or other fears that a lot of investors have is kind of being able to do it remote or distant, right? I mean, for you, if you're in Ottawa and you're expanding into Detroit, that's quite a miles away, right? So how did you get over that hump?
Well, just I don't know. We've moved around a lot, so with the slow flips and stuff, we actually moved to many cities. My kids now it's kind of bad for them, but I don't know how many schools they've been in. People ask us if we're military. I'm like, no, just maybe some crazy parents that move for fun. Yeah, getting over that. I mean, it's like anything. I don't believe in fear. What's the worst thing that could happen in anything? I guess I could die, but I'm not even afraid of that. So, yeah. So just because of my belief. So if I'm not going to die and I'm not really afraid of dying, then what's the worst that could happen? The building could burn down and it's gone and I lost it. Well, is that going to kill me or kill anyone or even slow me down? Maybe it's actually going to speed me up. Maybe I'll get an insurance money and start over with more money than I had. Or I look at what are the risk factors, and yeah, I don't know. I'm just a creative person, so doesn't scare me. And not sure, like, it's taking action as well and asking questions and doing things. You don't do crazy stuff, but I mean, calculated risk and find out about like the market fundamentals, things like that. Detroit as well. Like if you invest there, be very careful. There's some really, really scary areas. But there's some good spots too. So it's like anywhere, like Toronto, there's some areas that are like Jane and Finch. I remember that was not a good spot. Scarborough for quite a while as well was quite scary. Even Ottawa, there's Vanier. It's investor hotspot right now, but for many years it was quite scary. So yeah, it's just getting over that fear and making sure you inquire and get all the information you need.
Right, perfect. And then I guess what are some of your criteria? Are you mainly going after cash flow when you are looking for these markets, or what are you after?
Cash flow, yes. Some appreciation. I actually don't like it when there's too much appreciation because it's like speculation. It's kind of scary. I prefer secondary markets as well. That's my personal preference because I find your buying power is better and the purchase price versus the rental price is better. So if you pay like the 1% rule, you can actually achieve it in quite a few markets. Actually 2 or 3% rule in some markets. So again, that's cash flow, but you need some appreciation as well. So if it's completely flat, that's also scary because it's like inflation. If you don't even have inflation and things are going up and your property is not going up in value, then you're actually kind of losing money. So it's a balanced approach. I also find I usually set out like a price per door and a certain rent. I do some market research and I want to be able to buy a place that can command a certain rent roll, and then I'm good with it. And lenders as well, you talk to them and they'll tell you there's some markets they don't like lending into. So that's also very telling. If it's harder to get a mortgage in some spots, maybe there's something wrong about that market.
Right, right. And then these deals that you're finding, Francois, are they off market or are they on MLS? Like, how are you getting these deals?
For me, it's been all MLS. So I've tried off market, but it hasn't worked for me. I found the prices were just a bit lower, but not enough to justify the extra work the places needed. So yeah, I have yet to find an off market deal. I'm open to it. So if there's wholesalers listening, I'm interested, but I haven't found one unless I moved in personally. It just, the gap wasn't big enough to make it worth the price difference. And usually like closing is shorter and it makes it harder. Like if you want to put a mortgage, you have to buy cash. So it's more cash intensive. That's the experience I've had so far.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. Depending on the market, I know for instance, St. Catharines is getting extremely hot. I know even London, Ontario is just booming like no tomorrow, right? So there's a ton of competition, lots of wholesaling. MLS listings are going over 20%. Yeah, to your point, I know they're not sustainable. Yeah, I don't think you can, go 20% a year. But it's interesting how COVID had the opposite effect. Everybody was expecting a crash. Meanwhile, we had the complete opposite. Exactly. So to your point, yeah, it is a lot of speculation when you look at the appreciation value. But there, as long as the fundamentals exist there, I think you're pretty much fine, right? So, for instance, I can just talk a little bit briefly about what's happening in our condo market in Toronto. So we are seeing a quite bit of rental units available, and the reason for that is because lots of these folks used to do Airbnb and short-term rentals, which they cannot do anymore because there's nothing going on in the city, right? Everything's closed, right? So you're seeing ton of volume of these units coming on the market, and some are now, after a few months, listed, they decide, you know what, I'm going to just get rid of this. I'm going to sell it. So for somebody like you said who can see the long-term effects of it, eventually we know things are going to go back to normal, and it's downtown, it's going to go back up. But for some, they don't want to take a chance, or they can't carry the holding costs, and they just want to get rid of it. So we are seeing a bit of a buyer's market for first time in a very long time.
It's been a while.
Toronto region. Yeah, so it's pretty crazy how it has a cycle effect, and it just goes up and down. Yeah,
because I remember Toronto in 2000, like you could get a condo for like 100 and something 150, 190, 190,000. Like now you get a parking space for that. So yeah, even fairly close to downtown. So I mean, that's 21 years ago, but still, it used to be way cheaper. Like London, Ontario, you could get a townhouse for 70,000.
Wow.
Not anymore. I remember that. I wish I had cash back then, and the knowledge I have now. I mean, wow, I'd be worth millions. But anyway,
Right.
that's how it goes.
Absolutely, yes. It's just like they say, when is the best time to invest? Yesterday.
Now, well, yesterday, but it's now and it's there's some challenges, but the interest rates are low, so the purchase price is higher, but the interest rate is low. And my parents told me about their first house in 1976. They were paying 24% interest.
Wow.
And they had 3 mortgages back then, and it was in Scarborough. They paid 69,000 for a detached house with a garage and everything. Now it's probably well over $1 million, and
easily.
anyway,
Right.
yeah, and back then it was like a nasty place. They were quite sad. 3 mortgages, 24%. Yeah. So it's like a credit card, put it on MasterCard.
Yeah, no, lots of change. And that's what it is. I think, whenever we go into a market, typically you're going to find, the lower prices are areas that are not necessarily the best areas. But as we know, over the years, it's going to gentrify. So things are going to change. It's just a matter of, your calculated risk, like you said. Does it cash flow? Can I get good tenants in? Even if I'm not going to say the complete roughest area in the market, but if it's somewhere in between, close to work, close to job, I think you could potentially make it work. Given the fact you do the right renovations and you get the right tenants in place.
Yes. Yeah, it's important, the tenant mix. That's something I always take more time to really choose the right tenants, especially if it's a smaller multifamily like a duplex, because they really get to see each other. So if they don't blend well, then that's not a good mix, and that's a big mistake that can happen easily.
And so how are you managing these self-managed right now, or do you have property managers? Because again, it sounds like it's scattered everywhere, right? So are you, how involved are you, let's say, in terms of management?
So the more local ones within a 100-kilometer radius, I self-manage. So I have a good relationship with my tenants, and they call me or they let me know, okay, there's something going on, and I just send off people like plumbers or a handyman or someone to look after things. And I visit once in a while. Out of province, for sure, I have property management. There's no way especially right now with COVID, I can't even go. So property management, and Detroit as well. I mean, it's a different country. There's different laws and rules. So yeah, it's going to be property management as well. But you have to manage property management. So that's something else that's an added layer. But to scale, you do need to delegate. So it's an important step in delegating. And for some of my properties, I'm a bit of a control freak. So it's good that they're that far. I had to delegate. There's no way I can be there. So it's been a good challenge for me to delegate.
Yeah, no, for sure. If you don't mind me asking a couple of things, because I know you have properties, and you mentioned Cornwall, you have some in Moncton, New Brunswick, and then now you're looking at Detroit. What are some of the good things about those markets, if you can just give us a quick overview? So what did you see in Cornwall, for instance, that got you investing there, or Moncton, and then we can focus on Detroit last?
So Cornwall, my first duplex, I paid $110,000. So
wow.
two units. I mean, the rents are much lower, but I was able to command more than the 1% rule with that very small investment of $110,000. And the house was fully renovated. I only put in, I think, new hot water tanks and a few electrical repairs, and that's it. So very cheap entry price point. And that property, it's not the cash flow. I mean, the rents are really small, and it's more the refinancing possibility, because as it went up in value, I was able to get a line of credit, a secured one and an unsecured line of credit with that one single property, and refinance it. And then I used that money and bought my second one, and then the same thing, third, fourth, and then so on and so forth. So that's what was appealing about Cornwall. And also it's an hour drive from where I live. So I was able to go and look after things. but it's also far enough that the tenants are not coming knocking on my door. So that was something I was concerned about.
Yeah.
But I did buy in Ottawa as well. I have a place, I think it's not even 2 kilometers from my house,
Nice.
and the tenants don't come. So it's just a silly thing. They do call or send me a text message when there's something, but that's it. Cornwall, yeah, it's seen a ton of appreciation. So I've been trying to buy more, but it's just, yeah, I'm being priced out of the market. You can't get enough rent for the price you pay. And then in Ontario, as you know, that you can't increase the rent this year, and it's very hard. There's lots of rent control. So it's hard to make the property cash flow. So that's what brought me to Moncton. So Moncton, what I like is the New Brunswick laws. It's more landlord friendly. You can increase rent. There's no rent control. There are some rules. I mean, the tenants are somewhat protected, but you can do a lot more than in Ontario. And actually, that also allows me to fix the place. So a lot of places in Ontario, let's say you buy it and the rent is really low and you need to repair stuff and you're not cash flowing, then you can't fix things. So I think that's what's happening is a lot of people become slumlords because they can't afford it anymore. So New Brunswick, I usually have an agreement with my tenants, even though I have property management. Hey, I'm going to fix the door, change this, change that, put in new floors. Do you want to stay? But here's the new rent. And then the people say, hey, yeah, that's perfect. That's what I was waiting for. Actually, one of my tenants thanked me. She's like, can you change the windows? I've been heating the outdoors for years and I'm willing to pay more. I'm like, sure, I'll invest and you invest. So it's teamwork. I mean, that's how it goes. I can't just throw in money and then you pay nothing. So yeah, that's how I see it.
That's awesome. I mean, that's how it's supposed to be, right? I mean, there has been a two-way street, right? So
Yeah,
you're putting in the
reasonable.
effort. Exactly. You want to see some return on your investment, and then again, you make it a more livable, lively place for the tenants. So definitely a win-win situation. So that's great, yeah, because I've heard great things about Moncton, New Brunswick for sure, as well as the East Coast, other provinces. I think even PEI apparently is doing pretty
Yeah,
well. Mm-hmm.
it's good. It's a bit harder to get in, much smaller community. And then Nova Scotia now, they just introduced rent control and different things. So yeah, I'm staying away from that. I'll just stay in Ontario if I want rent control. There's tons here. So
Right,
and
absolutely.
then at Detroit, kind of similar idea. But what's nice about Detroit is you can do the BRRRR model. You can do a perfect BRRRR. So you can buy a place that's really run down. And there's some good renovation teams. So you can work with them and you can get a place fully redone for much less than in Canada. And then you can refinance. You get like a huge increase in value. And that's a forced appreciation. And then Section 8 housing, which is government subsidized, but it's not like in Canada. So those people actually work. Oftentimes they have a job, they just can't make ends meet or fully pay for everything. So they get a government grant or voucher just for the rental portion, and they have to maintain the place. There's certain standards to maintain their voucher. So it's a really good program. We should look into that.
For sure. And so the Detroit market, let's dig a little bit deeper. Are you focusing flips, or primarily is it just a BRRRR model where you're holding on to those properties for now?
Yeah, holding on. So I'm getting free properties. So I'm buying them cash,
Right.
and then I'm refinancing all my money out, and then buying another one and another one. And then once you have a U.S. corporation, you can get American credit, and you can start borrowing and earning more money. So it's
Yeah,
really nice.
I'm curious. How does the financing work? As a as a Canadian living here, I'm sure there's tax treaties and so forth on the tax side, but in terms of the banks, I mean, when you do go and say, hey, I got a property locked in, here's the address to look US, don't they give you
Yeah.
a weird look? Or are they saying, oh yeah, that's fine?
Yeah, it's fine if, especially Detroit, because it's right on the border. That's why I chose Detroit for my first U.S. investment. Eventually, I'll want to go probably to Florida and Texas and other good states, but like for investments.
Mhm.
But Detroit, yeah, they're used to it, and there's actually BMO. So BMO Harris, which is the American version of BMO, is there, and they have a whole system set up for Canadians investing in the US. As long as you get your social security number through the IRS, so you need an LP and an LLC, so 2 corporations. And then anyway, my lawyer is looking after all that, so I don't understand the whole thing. Well, I do, but it's long and convoluted. But anyway, there's a lot of advantages, and also I do want some US funds because I want to invest in Curacao. So out there, it's a beautiful island. Everything's paid in American dollars. So if I earn some American income, then I can use it there. And anyway, there's a bigger plan behind this. And also Dominican Republic, a lot of places you can buy in US dollars. So that's the opportunity I'm seeing long term. And the free houses, who says no to free properties? So
that's incredible. Would you mind sharing, I guess, one of the most recent projects you handled there in Detroit? Kind of just high level numbers?
So it's not closed yet. So it's coming. I'm closing on February 15th.
Right.
And so numbers. So I'm working with a team of Canadians. That's what they do. And they source the properties. They buy a bunch of them at once. And then they come up to like me or an investor. And then they can offer a property. So the one I'm buying, I'm paying $149K. And after repairs, because they sell it to you turnkey, like fully renovated, it's worth $210 or more. So I already have a $60,000 built-in equity, 60 to 70. And then I can refinance 70 or I think even up to 80% loan to value, which would be all my money back.
Incredible.
Except maybe like closing costs, but I mean, that's minimal. And then I just rinse and repeat, and that's it.
Like another thing I was gonna say was like, these properties that you're seeing in Detroit, like I guess, what is the typical cash flow you're looking at, by the way?
So it's not extremely high because let's say you, once you leverage and refinance, the cash flow you're left with is probably $200, maybe $300 per month US because they're single family. But to me, it's enough because the place has been pretty much gutted. Like they've almost rebuilt the house. So you're good for 10, 15 years before you really put in like larger amounts of money. Like there's a new furnace, new windows, new bathrooms, new kitchens, new flooring, maybe a new roof, even the brick, like the one I bought, even the brickwork is being not redone, but repointed or something. So I'm quite confident it's going to be electrical is all redone, plumbing. It's almost a new house. So so lower cash flow, but then that's going to appreciate as well. Because I've looked at comparables that have gone up in price as well, quite a bit more.
That's incredible.
I'm happy with that. Otherwise, I'd want to buy it cheaper and have a higher cash flow for a bigger contingency fund because the place is a bit older and will need more repairs.
Right. No, that's a very good way of analyzing it, right? So you're basically saying, what, I can buy essentially a dump, do minor renovations, cosmetic, right? And then I'm going to be running into problems for the next 5 years because everything's going to start breaking down versus going with this model where it's all extensively renovated for you. So that you're going to have that peace of mind, hopefully, for next 5-10 years. And you don't have to worry about the major expenses, the CapEx. So are you also, for these new models that you're purchasing, essentially, are you also calculating for CapEx, or is that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, year one, I'm really hoping I don't have to put in much, but it can always happen. And you always have to plan for that. So that's why I don't believe in buying cash flow negative, because one hot water tank, you're out. Depends. Is it natural gas? Is it electric? That's like, could be 1,000, could be 1,500. Is it on demand? There's a million options. So then it depends where it's installed. So some older properties, maybe it's in a crawl space where no one wants to go. So they're going to charge you 4 times the price. Or a roof, like some older homes, it's got like quite a high pitch. So it costs a lot more. I always account for that for sure. But I'm always hopeful as well. Like you can't put too much money aside, but you have to be prepared as well.
Absolutely. And then what are you looking at typically at like a single family home in that area? Like how much are they going for and how much are rents?
So rents are quite high. Mine is going to be a 4 bedroom, 1.5 bathroom, and rent, I think I was told about 1,600 per month, nothing
Wow.
included. So they have to mow their lawn, and I don't think they do much shoveling. It doesn't snow very much there, but if there is some, then I guess they can push it aside. It's not like Ottawa, you need a four-wheeler to get in. And then, yeah, property taxes are extremely low. Insurance is way cheaper. I don't know what they do out there, but it's a lot less, like not even half price.
Mhm.
Utilities, like the water bills, are very low.
Wow,
So
seems like you found like a hidden gem.
yeah, yeah. Now I just said it on the podcast, but I hope to see other investors down my street, and then you know, like I own this one, you own that one, and it'd be nice, like building a community around it.
Absolutely. And I love that you have the abundance mindset versus scarcity, because a lot of folks kind of want to hold these little secrets and they don't
I
want to give these
know.
golden nuggets. But you know what? We help each other out in this community, and that's what I love about the real estate investment community. I started getting really into investing, especially in I guess 2020. You can really say.
Okay.
Previously, I was invested in pre-construction homes and stuff like that, but now I got more into the BRRRR method and so forth. So yeah, it's incredible how welcome everybody is, and that's why I decided to start a podcast, because I want to also give back, right? So whatever
Yeah.
I've learned, whatever you've learned, I love to share that out and help as many people as possible. And helping feels good.
It does. It really does, and it comes back to you. People hear you, and people want to invest with you because they hear about your philosophy and how you're kind and you're helping others, and you just earn their trust that way as well. So it's, yeah, just to be genuine and be yourself. And yeah, and there's tons. I mean, how many? We're almost 38 million people in Canada, so
Mhm.
that's a lot of properties. It's not 38 million doors, obviously, but I don't know, maybe 12 million, 14 million. I'm not sure, but it's a lot of properties. And
Mhm.
investors, we're a very small segment. I think we're like 5% of the Canadian population.
There you go.
So there's lots of room to grow. And the bigger companies, the bigger REITs and all that, they usually don't invest in like single homes, or the smaller, like 6 and under, they're not too interested in that. So yeah, and
Yeah.
you can look outside of your market, and we're creating housing. Sometimes we're adding suites. So there's tons of options.
Yeah, absolutely. We're training communities. We're helping people have better lives, and it's attracting other folks to move in. And you know what? That's going to attract businesses. So yeah, it's a
Yeah,
domino effect. It really
it
is.
is. And the
Yeah.
tenants I do meet, like when it's not property management, I tell them too, if you want to learn how to buy properties, tell me and I'll show you. I'll be glad to help you buy and move out and buy your own place. So I always tell them, so far no one's taken me on my offer, but I guess you have to get there. It's a growth period, but
Did,
maybe they watch me and they'll be interested at some point.
I was going to say they need to listen to your podcast and watch you on YouTube to be like, oh my goodness, that's my landlord.
Yeah, yeah,
He
crazy
wasn't
guy.
bluffing.
Yeah, well, I do want to help them out. I think
Yeah.
it's great, and I think it's getting out of that mindset, like of debt, and yeah, investing in the wrong things and spending time on the stuff that doesn't help you in the
Yeah,
long run.
absolutely, absolutely. Personal finances is basically what we're missing, basically from an education
Oh
perspective,
man, yes.
right? I mean, you just said it yourself. Growing up in a family, and parents knew what they're doing, but they never taught you that, unfortunately,
No,
right? And it's good that you realize that, and now you're passing on to your kids. And
yeah.
eventually, when I have a family, that's going to be definitely the go-to, because as it's so weird. Like I majored in business and I had one entrepreneurship class, and the rest
Wow.
were all just general. And even in
That
that
should be the
class,
focus.
right? Even with that, it was more like we never talked about how interest works, how mortgages work, how lending works, how you leverage money, right? Like these
Compounding
things are
effect, and
right.
wow.
Like it's crazy. I took accounting, I took some finance courses, but it was just more pertain to other sectors, but nothing in real estate, where the number one thing people Google on how to retire, the first thing that pops up is real estate. So
Yeah.
I'm shocked that it's really not talked about, and it's not taught in school. And again, there's other avenues too. Stocks is kind of like, I believe it became a little bit of a mainstream thing to think about in investing, but unfortunately, I don't have much knowledge about it. That could potentially be my next avenue of learning. However, real estate, I find it's just that you have the asset in front of you, feel it, you see it.
Yeah.
So I love that.
It's easier to understand. I mean, and most people end up buying a house in their lifetime, so they kind of see the steps. Of course, a larger multifamily, it's a bit more involved. There's more steps, but it's still similar. You go to the lawyer, you have to finance it, you have to have an inspection, there's equipment, so it's all the same. So it's just a larger scale.
That's really awesome. So these guys are essentially wholesalers.
Yeah, usproperties.ca. So there you go. If you're not opposed to mentioning them, they're amazing. So far, I'm really, really excited about the partnership and working with them. And I'm hoping to do maybe 4 this year. And then we'll see. We'll take it from there. I usually like to buy 3 properties per market minimum to make it worth my while. I mean, to build a power team and all that. So yeah, I don't just buy one off, ideally, unless it goes sideways.
Yeah. So again, like you said, the beauty of this is you're going through with them and they're taking care of literally everything. You just put the money in and that's it. And you just refinance and you walk away. They're happy with their profits and you're happy with yours. Yeah,
because obviously they make some money in this. I could buy houses for way cheaper in Detroit, but I'd have to find a team, and that's kind of the recipe of doing it remotely, is you find trustworthy people. Yeah, maybe you'll pay a premium, but it allows you to invest in that market. So I don't mind. It's like paying interest on private money. I don't care about the interest rate. It could be much higher as long as the property I'm buying can support it and I'm still making money. I don't care how much it is. So.
Absolutely. You're just doing a calculated risk. You're trying to see, what is my return on investment? Sure, these are business expenses, and you have to keep that in. Exactly.
Not for buying a shirt or a car, like I mentioned earlier. If you're paying 14% interest on a car, then that's a lot of money.
Yes, one is depreciating, the other one is appreciating, which is the opposite effect.
Well, that's it. That's what I tell my kids too. My daughter, she went to Lululemon and bought this thing, like a sweater for $108. I'm like, this is crazy. It's not going to appreciate. The first time you wash it, it might be ruined. So anyway.
It needs to be washed separately, by the way.
I do the laundry at home. So I tell her, this is where it goes and that's how it's done. And you hang it to dry at that price. I'm not putting it in the dryer. So.
And then Francois, I know we talked a lot about successes here, and I'm so happy that you are progressing and you're making all these moves. Is there a story that you can share about some of the failures you faced? I mean, some of the challenges that you had getting into this?
Yeah, so failure, I'd say a big one. Well, it feels sometimes like a failure is you're putting in offers and then you get outbid and just your strategy about winning a property. And sometimes you get it, but you overpaid. So that can be a huge failure as well. So sticking to your price point and your budget and your strategy is very important. Actually never overpaid so far, thankfully, but I did miss out on some properties, sometimes by $1,000. And I just felt, I'm like, this is it. That's my cutoff point. But sometimes it depends on the market. Like in the GTA, you have to be willing to pay more if the numbers work. But maybe look at what's your maximum that you can afford. And so that's been a bit of a failure. Sometimes I was too cheap. And then I found out how much the person that got the property actually paid. I'm like, $1,000, I would have made that in 1 month. So I couldn't care less. So I make weird offers now, like weird numbers, like 431,000 or I don't know, 191,500 just to try and get them. So sometimes you just round up by a few hundred or a few $1,000s and you get the place. So
yeah, no, absolutely. As a seller, they want the highest, bidder essentially. So that's just how it goes. And you're right. It could be a split of hundreds or thousands, basically. between you and the highest, and also the conditions are very important too,
Yeah,
right?
conditions as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So as a realtor, I know all this because you definitely have to you want to clean, especially the GTA. Like its expectations are essentially you want a clean offer. It's
Oh
like
yeah,
here's my
cash deal.
cash.
Like here's
That's it.
the yeah. Where do I send you my e-transfer, basically? So yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And I
crazy.
notice other markets and smaller markets are a little bit more lenient, so they are okay
Yeah.
with having clauses like inspection and financing, and it's totally understandable. And some things are assumed. It's funny. I have a story where I was buying a property in Niagara, and in GTA, it's pretty much assumed that if you don't put a financial clause in there, is that you're going to basically have the money right on closing date. And
Yeah.
so the agent called me back and says, "Hey, just want to make sure to run this by you. I noticed that you didn't put anything on the financing. Was that an oversight?" I paused for a second. I'm like,
What?
I don't know. In the GTA, we don't do this. This is something you
There's
expect me
no
to
financing. Yeah.
know. And she's like, "Yes. I mean, if you have the cash, that's fantastic. But don't you want to protect yourself?" I'm like, "I didn't even know that was an option in the Niagara region." So
Wow.
you do learn quite a bit as you go from market to market. Things are a little bit different.
They are, yeah. Like in some markets, you can put in weeks for conditions, not just days or
Mhm.
hours. It can be like weeks. Like I've even had a month and a half on a place, and I just took my time. Or when you get into commercial, then you need much more time because the financing can be way, especially right now, it can be quite long.
Yeah,
But yeah, conditions. Yeah, be careful that you have an exit strategy. Usually, I plan 3 exit strategies for any
absolutely.
deal.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to be able to pivot, right? So like what I was talking earlier about, what's happening in the condo market
Yeah,
downtown. People that were just strictly relying on Airbnb and having really high revenue streams coming out of that are now pretty much in a way where they're looking at it and they're like, I'm losing money now. Like I'm a negative
yeah,
cash flow because maintenances are going up, right? Taxes are going up. And on top of it, the rent market is going lower. So it's a
it
really bad place to
is.
be in at that point. Yes.
Because no one wants to be in a building and then you have to share a hallway and wear a mask in the elevator and sanitize. Like we do this at the store. You don't need to do that when you're going in and out of your home. And yeah, it just
Yeah.
feels like wrong.
And working from home, right? Like now we're
Yeah.
commanding more space because, like for example, my wife and I, we both have two desks in here, right? Like you need your space so you can work comfortably. So that's been the biggest driver. That's why a lot of folks are moving out of the city into the suburbs.
Yes.
So
To
it's
be
been a
able to
ripple
afford.
effect. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, perfect. Now, so this gives me to the perfect segue here. So besides Rich Dad and Poor Dad, what are 2 books that you can recommend people interested in getting into real estate investing to read?
So I've actually not read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I tried and I found it extremely boring. I know people swear by it. They love it. My wife
Yeah.
said it was amazing. I read a few pages and I gave up actually. I'm like, oh, I don't get this. So, and I know it's great, but
Yeah.
anyway, 2 books. Let me see. Unfortunately, I don't read much now. I do a lot of like podcasts and stuff. So I'm not sure.
No worries.
And I
What
do
about
read it
podcasts?
French, so a lot of books I read were in French actually. So
Okay, okay.
yeah, your audience, unless they speak French, I'm not too sure they they would get it.
No worries.
Podcasts. So I love the Right Club, obviously. Andrew Hines, great podcast. Sarah Larby, Where Should I Invest? Um, yeah, and I do listen to French ones as well because in Quebec the laws are very different, but
Mhm.
they're not afraid of pushing boundaries out there. So they do some wild stuff. So I love some the French podcasts. I try not to listen, but I should start now to American ones because I found it didn't apply. But now I'm investing in the US, so I guess I should be more in tune with what they're doing. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, the biggest one that I got into the podcasting was Bigger Pockets. I'm sure you already
Yeah.
have heard and listened to it. So definitely a great resource there as well. And then yeah, Francois, in terms of what is your favorite place to travel? I know you definitely are into traveling as well. What's your ideal place? Where would you like to go?
So actually, no, I'm not very well traveled.
Really?
So,
I thought you were into
yeah,
islands and we are talking about that last
no,
time.
I want to go. I want to buy there, but no, I haven't. I haven't gone very much. So
Interesting.
I
Okay.
would like at some point. I'm kind of Yeah, I'd like to have a place in different countries. So yeah, the islands for sure, maybe Europe. But I do enjoy like plain old Ottawa. I'm very happy here. I go in my backyard. Like today, I put my snowshoes on and I went in the woods, and I was very happy. And that's it. I guess I'm a simple guy. I'm not. Yeah, especially with all the COVID stuff, it's nice to stay home and be just safe. But yeah, I want to see different places in the future.
Awesome. And then, so if there was one piece of advice you can give somebody starting in, real estate investing, what would that be?
Take action. So stop analyzing and analysis paralysis. We only have one life to live. I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow, and neither do you. So sorry, but so yeah, take action.
That's reality.
That's something I hear every day from successful people is they just take action. Of course, you need to do some educating, but sometimes it's good to do it without too much education and then kind of learn about it. I'm bad like that when I buy furniture. I usually don't read the instructions, and then surprise, there's a loose screw. But I learn when it's time to assemble the second table or second shelving unit, then I know what to do. So it's the same for real estate. You kind of jump in, find the right people. Yes, it's kind of like the internet as well in this era of information. Mm-hmm. It's knowing who knows how to do it. Maybe not knowing it yourself sometimes, but knowing that you have people that know how to do it and be well surrounded. So
yeah.
Don't
and
be
last
afraid.
question. Yeah, last question was, how has real estate changed your life? This one is an obvious one.
Yeah, well, it's just, I think I found my passion. Like I mentioned, I did interior design. I did landscaping for a few years, sustainable design, sales, all kinds of fields. And it was never very fulfilling. I was always working on someone else's dream, another business, marketing, sales, like I said. And now real estate, I'm working on my dream and my future and my business. And it's hard in 2021 to find a product that's really easy to market, but real estate is easy to market. People need a place to live. And with the pandemic, it's still a hot and relevant place. People always said people need haircuts, but my wife started cutting my hair for a while. So, I mean, even the hairdresser or the barber kind of were out of work, but people needed a place to live. So, and a passion as well, combining my passion to help people, help others grow as well. So it's a good mix, and the interior design background. So yeah, it's just putting everything together. I turned 40 last summer. So I guess it was like, yeah, I'm 40 and this is it. And I get to retire at 40. My dad was 52, so I beat him by 12 years. So
Awesome.
And I'm still working now on many projects. I find I'm working more than I was, but it's exciting.
Yeah, and that's the difference. I mean, I think the same way. I would love to retire. My goal is actually also 40. It's out here now.
Okay.
But you know what? It's just how it is. When I think about it, I'm like, I don't think I could go a day without not doing anything. I'm not a couch potato. I would just be so bored out of life, So I think my retirement will be ideally like kind of what you're into. It's like you leave the 9-to-5 job, you have enough cash flow to, help you build the business around what you're passionate about. And that's what it is. If you look at the most successful people, what differentiates them between others is that they have a passion for that side of business, right? It doesn't feel like work. Like your real estate, it's not work for me. And I'm sure you feel the same way. You enjoy analyzing property. You enjoy speaking to other folks. You enjoy learning about different markets and different segments and different strategies. It's just so fascinating. It feels like almost endless.
It really is. And that's why I'm talking about Europe and stuff. My wife has a colleague who's got investments in France, and then we're like, well, maybe we should look into that at some point. So why not? And you get to travel that way. So that maybe will be how I get to travel at some point, is looking at properties and and then traveling and enjoying wine, of course. I travel through wine right now. That's it.
Yeah. And what's your favorite wine? This must be a hard question.
Oh yeah, it's hard for sure. It's red, but I've discovered I don't know if you're a wine connoisseur, but Blanc de Noir. So it's a white wine made from a red grape. So anyway, I actually kind of enjoy those. I used to like white wine, then I hated it. I went to red. I love Italian wine, so Sangiovese or Montepulciano d'Abruzzo. Yeah, those are my favorite kind of go-to. But I like some Canadians like Pinot Noir. It's quite nice from Ontario. Prince Edward County, there's some nice wines. And Niagara region, of course.
Right, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely check out some of those recommendations. I enjoy wine here and there, but definitely, I know you're big into that, so
yeah,
definitely we'll go with your recommendation. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Francois. This has been amazing. I really appreciate you joining us tonight. I know listeners will get a ton of great nuggets out of this for sure.
Hopefully.
So again, yeah, I appreciate you sharing, some information and teaching us about the different markets that you're segmenting. I can't wait to see what are you going to do in Detroit. I'm very curious to learn more and see where it will lead you. Hopefully you're going to be buying an island soon and I'll be visiting you soon.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And Detroit, I'm going to get some nice before and after pictures because supposedly it's really run down, like scary, real Detroit style. And then after it's supposed to be beautiful. So I can't wait to share those pictures and see like a huge transformation.
Awesome. And for folks that want to connect with you, Francois, where can they find you?
So I'm very active on social media. You can find me on Instagram. So FL_homes_corp or Francois Lanthier on Facebook or LinkedIn as well on Twitter. So just reach out to me, send me a message, and I'm glad to answer questions. Or I do get to speak to a lot of upcoming and new investors, so I like helping people. And I've started coaching as well, so I have a few select clients that need help, and it's really a lot of fun to see them grow and learn things. And yeah.
Absolutely. And I'll have all your information in the show notes. So anybody interested in connecting with Francois, please do reach out to him. He's an amazing person and he's very helpful. I know I have connected with him previously, and we were discussing Cornwall, if you recall, about 6-7 months ago.
Yes.
So definitely a good way to segment and build your network, right? So the more people you know, the more people you can connect to and learn about their strategies. And you never know. Some days you may be able to JV and go and partner up or get coached in this case. So a great way to build your portfolio and build your network.
Absolutely. Wonderful.
Awesome. All right. Thanks a lot, Francois. And for those folks listening in, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one.
Awesome. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope you were able to get some great golden nuggets out of it. The kindest thing that you could do is share this podcast across all social media to help as many people as possible. If you like this podcast or have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram or YouTube. I'll post the links in the show notes below for those accounts so you can find me. I love bouncing ideas off people and I love talking real estate. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next episode. Remember, financial freedom is just a few properties away.